Hello, everybody. Welcome to ESO Daily. Once again, and always, I am your host, Mystic Raven, and today we're going to be covering the Stamina Sorcerer build, aka what I like to call, in this case, the Battle Cat build. Now, a lot of times when we're talking about Stam Sorcerers, most people prefer Red Guard, but there are quite a bit of options depending on your preference. You can actually use a Dunmer. You could go Bosner. You could go Khajiit. And also, in the upcoming patch, you can go Nord. Kind of makes it interesting. But we're going to go ahead and get into this. First off, I'm going to go ahead straight into my character sheet. Now, please keep in mind, I do not have my Undaunted fully done yet on this character, and also I'm still in the process of upgrading the gear, but that is the most important aspect here when I show you these stats. Okay, as you look at my weapon damage with my bow, it's sitting at 2926, right? As you guys see there, when I switch out to my dual wield and we go back into it, now my weapon damage pushes up to 3,477. Now, that's not all. So when I come here, we're going to actually use the Builder Critical Surge, and I'm going to throw on my Bound Armament. Once I do this, hold on, didn't take. Let's throw that again. Okay, something weird is. Oh. Gotta swap. There we go. 4,057. Okay? Yeah. That's real. And that's... I only have one gold piece, and that's my bow. Now, that is pretty awesome. Because by the time I'm done upgrading this, he'll be sitting around 43 base with no monster set. That's about 600 drop, as you guys can see when it drops. Now, when we go into the gear, I run a 5-5 rotation with Night Mothers and Hundings. I do not use the Twice-Born Star. Once again, there. God. Okay. The reason we're running this rotation with the 5-5 switch is because the Night Mothers gives us increase damage when we do a crit. When we hit with Critical Surge, being the Khajiit, we're increasing our critical chance, plus with the gear, we're capping, so we're almost guaranteed to crit. At this point, it will increase our crit opportunity, because it doesn't have to be with a light or a heavy attack, it can be with an ability. But when we do that, it drops their physical resistance. Now, the reason you cannot do a 5-5 switch with the Twice-Born Star, okay? I'm always going to tell you that, people. You can't do it. You have to have 5 on each side. So, to me, that's relevant because I can't get both stats when I'm running my rotation. So, when I do my switch, and I'm getting all of these, so right there's the Night Mothers. We have a 5-4. When we come over here, as you can see, we have the 5. Alright? I'll go into the rotation. But then when we switch back again, now we have the 5 of Hundings. Okay? Certain players cover the Twice-Born Star, but negate or don't tell you the benefits of running a 5-5 switch. So I'm just going to tell you, once again, I'm not saying the Twice-Born Star is a bad set. I just don't believe it optimizes to the full potential of the build. That's my personal opinion, and hey, whatever. I'm going to show you this, the character sheet and the stats. So that's what I'm just always going to show you. Now, when we take a look at the skill rotation, kind of interesting here. We always going to open up with the bow. Now, you can use a two-handed sword. I do like two-handed swords in PvP and certain PvE content, but there's a lot of boss fights that you have to play a ranged role, and you can't really get in close a lot of the times because of the mechanics of the boss. So bow does come in handy. What I like about the bow is I can use this as a complete setup for my rotation, but we'll get into it. Obviously, we're going to open up with Critical Surge. Now, Critical Surge is our builder. It's also going to give us Major Brutality, increasing our weapon damage, and while it is activated, Critical Strikes also heal me for 3,000 health. That can be done every second. This is kind of a big, important deal when it comes to making your healer's life a little easier. So when you're going through all of these attacks, you're essentially healing yourself. So you don't have to pick up a lot of these self-heal morphs because the Critical Surge is actually doing that for you. Okay, now we have Poison Injector. Now this is not a dot build. I don't want you guys thinking it is a dot build. We just use it because out of the morphs, it's going to give us a lot more damage, you know, when we hit that 50% for the 200. And also keep in mind we're using Night Mothers. That's also going to increase our penetration. Now this is the big one for us, is Endless Hail, because when we actually prime an ability, and I'll get into that in a second, and we utilize this, it's going to crit. When it does, we're going to get the effect from the Night Mothers. We can then shoot into our dual rotation, increasing our DPS considerably. Also, we have Focused Aim. This is a no-brainer when it comes to those boss fights, especially once again if you're at range, because basically we can go between Poison Injector, Focused Aim. That's before we prime our bow. On every bar that we use, except a werewolf, we're going to have bound armaments. Why? Because we don't want that to drop. It's very important because that's maximizing our DPS. Now, I know a lot of things have changed in the Fighters Guild. I love every aspect of what the devs have done for the Fighters Guild. When I've tried to implement the numbers or try to take a look at it, it is pushing out a little less DPS for this build specifically. So we're going to run bound armaments all the way. Bound armaments gives us also a physical resistance, and it increases our max stamina, and also increases our heavy attacks, which with the bow, when you're doing a heavy attack, it's great. If you do want to try the Gladiator set, it is a great set, especially with the bow. I can't say anything negative about it. It's basically essentially giving the bow heavy attack a finisher. So keep that in mind when you run the Gladiator and you hit with the Poison Injector. It does some wicked damage, okay? And that's if you're also running a charged weapon with the poisons. So nothing negative there. We are going with the Werewolf Berserker. Now, we don't really typically pop this. So for us specifically, what this is actually doing for us is it's giving us the regen, okay? Now, when we actually switch over, we're going to be taking a look. We have Hurricane. Hurricane is a great AoE damage. We're going to pop this after we hit with the Endless Hail. And then we're going to go ahead with Streak. Now, Streak is a Magicka-based ability, but what this really does for us, it gives us a stunning effect. We don't really care about the damage, but the stunning effect will actually increase our damage to mobs, because once they're stunned, the dual wield effect takes over. Also, we're using Whirling Blades. We don't really go with Steel Tornado on this because since we are running the Night Mothers and the Huntings, we don't have a regen set. The Whirling Blades helps us give a regen of 20% for 10 seconds when we use it. Also, when we go with the Werewolf Berserker, that's also giving us a regen. Also, for single target damage, we're using Rapid Strikes. Rapid Strikes actually scales per hit. Thus, we don't need the healing morph of this, and we can just utilize that on single targets. Once again, we have bound armament, and of course, the crazy one that most people don't anticipate, the Power Overload. Power Overload is great, even on the Stam build, because we're doing shock damage. And I'm going to go ahead, and when we take a look at Stormcaller, this is what's really great, is some of the passives here. We're getting a regen to the Magicka. We're getting physical and shock damage increase by 5%. So that's also going to help with the power overload. We're getting implosion, which is great because this applies to the physical damage as well. So when we use power overload, we're actually getting the best of both worlds. We're getting the shock damage, and also we have the capability of dealing physical damage on our melee bar, which is also going to help increase our DPS. Once again and always, we do have the Expert Mage, which increases the spell and weapon damage by 2% for each sorcery ability slotted. On this bar, that's why it's very important to run the power overload, because we're getting an 8% increase, which is also increasing our DPS. So when we take a look at, now hold on here. Now I'm still working on the dual wield, as you can see, but the DPS is actually going to increase when I get the twin blade and blunt. And the reason being, and because I usually use a two-hander a lot on my solo content, we're going to get an increase with damage for each sword. So it's going to give us a 3% increase to damage. Okay? And once again, ruffians. This is important for this build because when we unlock all of this, it gives us a boost for attacking stunned, immobilized, disoriented, or silenced enemies. This is why Streak is very important, because it's going to stun the mobs. Okay? Once it's stunned, we're getting an increase to the DPS. Now, when we take a look, I'm trying to think of everything that I've covered. Pretty much. Now, gear. I did want to show you guys. Now, this is all just epic. There's only one legendary. And as you guys can see, now we are running Nirnholm. Obviously, it's better for the stats. We're pushing out more damage. It's all purple. You guys can see. So I did CUDA my agility set, so we can get the maximum weapon damage out of this. I actually run 2 robust and 1 healthy, because when we take a look at the character sheet, we're slightly under the 20k mark. When we get the Undaunted, that'll actually push us up to the 20k, which will be great. Maximum stamina is always going to be under the 40k. Kind of not what I like, but with the weapon damage, we're actually running a pretty good burst build. Now, the only thing about the rotation that we're lacking is we don't have a... I'll show you guys here in a minute. Oh, it's under consumables. My bad. We're missing major savagery. So to compensate for this, we're actually using a pot, which is, you know, a potion. This will increase our weapon critical rating. Not that we really need it, but it does push out a little extra DPS. Also, I go ahead with the stamina recovery on this, and I become immune to knockbacks and disabling effects for 12 seconds. So this is the only buff that we're missing in this rotation is major savagery. We just use the pot to compensate. Okay? So I'm going to try to get into a little... oh, hold on. I'm going to take this just in case. You never know if I took a crux, but no. Oh, look. I just got a achievement. Okay, first thing I want to do, I'm going to build my builder. I'm going to go ahead and hit 3 times. Hit. Sometimes these little buggers like to bury themselves. Now, as you can see, my health isn't really going to drop because we're using a critical surge. Here's the ads. We're going to go ahead and proc this once again. Okay. Going back in. I'm going to drop this right here. I'm going to critical surge through them. They're going to follow me. Now, I also weave between my rotation. You might not see it. Alright. Take that void stone once again. Never know. Now, this is like... And for PC players, keep in mind what I'm dealing with here. I've got people who think Templars, and the console, they think Templars are the only healers. They think Dragon Knights are the only viable tanks. You know, when they see a Stam Sorc, they want to laugh. And really, This is one of the top end DPS classes in the game. And PC players, you know this. Unfortunately, console players do not. And it's kind of unfortunate because I'm trying to educate them as much as possible. And that's not saying anything bad. It's just sometimes you got to work with, deal with what you're working with and try to improve players' knowledge. Some want to listen, some don't. Now when I'm running out of low, now here we go. We're going to go with the power overload. I'm going to show you what I can do with this. There we go. Almost 19k just on an attack. So, and of course, we're going to, once we get all the numbers crunched, we'll push around about 20k per hit. So, overall, not bad. And mind you, it's an ultimate that's relatively cheap. Now, when you want to talk about the power overload bar, and I should go into this, we have all sorcery. Okay? Once again, the reason being, we want to go into Stormcaller. Because now we're at 12%, which we were at 8. We want to maximize this ultimate's potential. And for the rotation on this, it's very specific. We use the critical surge. We always want to keep that up. Hurricane, once again, AoE effect. Streak, no-brainer. Stun effect. And I use Dark Exchange. Dark Exchange is kind of good because I can restore health and magicka at the cost of stamina. And of course, bound armaments, we don't want that to drop, and always it's going to be the power overload. What's nice about this is we are running a 4-bar rotation. Now, the one thing I do want to tell you, when I'm running a trial, if I was going to run a trial with this character, I would actually replace Werewolf Berserker with the Warhorn. This is very important, especially with this rotation, because we're using the Night Mothers. The Night Mothers paired with the Warhorn really gives us, maximizes not only some of our DPS, we'll actually lose DPS, but it increases the party's DPS overall. And that's something we really want to make sure that we're utilizing, is making sure everybody, not just us, but our party is better. Because we don't use aggressive Warhorn, we're using power overload, but in trials we would use the Warhorn. So keep that in mind. Once again, now priming, I want to go over priming here for a minute. A lot of people don't really understand what I mean when I say I prime my before using an ability. And it's very important to understand what priming is, because just like anything, what a primer is, something that ignites, and fires, helps, fire the, the weapon. We actually use Hawkeye. Successful light or heavy attacks increase the damage of your bow abilities by 5% for 4 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. When we prime this 3, that's given us a 15% increase to all of our bow abilities. So we really want to prime prior. Now you can use the builder because we have a 33-second duration. So using the builder will actually increase the prime our light or heavy attacks. Will prime that prior to using Poison Injector and Endless Hail. Once we utilize that, we're good to go. Okay? Once again, up, prime, preset. Got a little scary, but we're good to go. Alright. Now I did come to Craglorn. First time taking this guy here. I just kind of wanted to play around. But, yep, as you guys can see, this is the Battle Cat build. I have nothing negative to say about it. Once again, the devs do a great job with, making all of these builds very interesting. And for a lot of other players, if you have any questions or comments, please post below. I will try to get to them in a timely manner. Typically, you know, I try to cover all of the basics. Now, once again, if you're running Twiceborn Star, I'm not going to go ahead and completely rag on it. I don't preferably use it. Unless I'm running a monster set, I go with the 5/5 switch. Now, it's kind of interesting because this has, you can use the Storm set in this, which kind of makes, which is in the white gold with Narinus, and it does some serious effects. I mean, if you want, you know, to run any other set, you know, I would go with the Storm. I forget what the last part of it is, but it's medium. It's in White Gold Tower, I believe, and it is pretty sick with the Narinith, the monster set. Unfortunately, you don't have to swap. You won't be using it in a trial because most of the time you're going to use Night Mother's stamina. You need at least one person running a Night Mother set, unless you're running the Vet Maul. If you're running Vet Maul and you can't complete it, let me tell you straight out why you can't complete it, because it has a trial set, okay, that affects every one of your party members. That stacks. Okay, done, over with, we covered it, we said it, it's out there. You have to have the trial set to complete that trial, okay? The devs put it in there for a reason. Hang up your pride, sack your gear, you'll be better off, and you'll thank me for it. Once again, if you have any questions or comments, post below. If you like the video, please feel free to subscribe. Once again and always, I want to thank you for watching, and you have a nice day.